All right, good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. So, welcome to the District Heights Adopted Neighborhood. Today's date is going to be the 21st of May, 2022. The District Heights Adopted Neighborhood, by way of the Calling Investments Paid, here, the corporate sponsor, uh, Extraordinary Men of God, out of Park Heights, Baltimore. Um, Sub-sponsor here for District Heights, and also, of course, we are in the House of Higher Praise Christian Church. The church Christian Higher Praise is in fact the adopted neighborhood sponsor here for Prince George's County. We want to thank you all for joining us today, and we're going to do a presentation, so we would like for you all to get your pens and your pad, because it's going to be informational, and it's going to be worth taking notes. Thank you all very much for coming today. I'm going to start off by asking the pastor of Higher Praise to speak, followed by Extraordinary Men, David Robinson, Pastor David Robinson, and then we'll get into myself, J.D. Hawkins, as the speaker for today. Thank you all for joining. Pastor D.
The apostles been open us up in prayer. Just open us up in prayer.
Let us pray. Father God, we thank you for this endeavor, for this community to come together to give your name glory, praise, and honor. We thank you for higher praise. We thank you also for adopted neighborhoods. God, we give you the glory, praise, and honor in this place. You are great and greatly to be praised. God, let us take notes and learn more from you, even for communities and children and youth and adults all in one together. God, we thank you for putting us on one mind and one accord. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Okay, so I want to shake your hand. This opportunity for us to sponsor this church in this neighborhood will go a long way. The purpose of us coming here today is to make sure that we reach our goal of 500 entrepreneurs headed by families in support of the mayor here. So I'm going to always say, when it comes down to adopt the neighborhoods, we always say if we have 500 investors in the house, talking to these mayors is always better than having 500 residents with nothing to add to the economy and or to the mayor who is in charge of making sure that community is better off. So we are going to put 500 investors into this district by way of that mayor, and that mayor should be very happy for us being here as a result of what we do. So with that, D.
Hello, everybody. This is certainly an honor. This is a part of our vision, being able to adopt this area and to be able to do great things and see great things happen. I've been in ministry for 24 years, working with families less fortunate. So I know what happens when we come together on one accord. And we know that there's a lot of need here, especially for our young men with all this killing going on. I myself had 2 sons murdered. Understand all too well why I have to do something about it. Instead of getting mad about it, we have to do more about it, because it takes a village to raise these children. I can run around here mad, or I can do something great about it. So I choose to do something positive and reach out to all these other young men. We come together, there are so much more people than what you see in this room. They're gonna be twinkling in because we put this event together at a later time. So I thank you all for coming out. I can promise you and assure you, whenever God's people get together to build something great, God anoints it to be even greater. So what we're gonna do is put our hands to the plow. We're gonna make greatness happen. How many of us know that these young men can't make it without us? On our way here, we saw a young man, and he was toting his little cart with some stuff. And I said, young man, we got a future for you, and we want to do something with your life. He said, okay, can I tell y'all, our entrepreneur is a young man that goes out there, even if you try to sell some water, he's an entrepreneur. But it takes us to be able to come in and work with him. If we don't, the gang member will get him, the prisoners will get him, they're waiting on him. But the Lord said, if his people which are called his name, and we will humble ourselves and pray. Turn from our wicked ways. He'll heal our land. We were all teenagers, and we know teenagers that do stuff because we're immature. And it's a sad thing when our children end up in the court system because they didn't know no better. Nobody raised them. Nobody took time. I tell the women at my No Longer Broken Women's Conference, you can talk about the other woman's son or daughter, but they might have ended up marrying your children. So it takes all of us. And I'm going to say this, and I'm not prejudiced, but if we don't work together to save our young men, we're going to be wiped out. And so there are other colors can sit back, cross their legs, take a drink and a smoke and say, don't worry about them, they kill themselves off. But the devil is a liar. That's why we're in this room today, to tell the devil you won't win. You might have wiped out some, but we're going to gain more. Amen? Amen. And we're going to work together. I know he said 500 people, and I'm looking up and saying that's small for God. And that's small for what's in us and what we're capable of doing. Listen, y'all, he that is in us is greater than this world. And we were born with a purpose, and it is not to keep it to ourselves. It's to grab our babies and say to our young men before the world catch up, we don't have to let you be the next one in prison. We don't have to let you be the next one that fall. No, you may not come from my womb or from my sperm, but you mean something to me. So there's a young man on the street all the time. I walk up to him, and he's out there, and I'm going to sit down after this. I walk up to him all the time, and I say, hey, I need $1. He's out there hustling. He gives me that dollar. I take that dollar. I put it in the tithes. And I know God's going to turn his life around. So listen, y'all, give God a praise for this great, awesome man and what his vision is. I'm excited. You got me.
Pastor Brother David Robinson, headed our way. He's coming by way of Park Heights, Baltimore. So is he approached? Okay, that's good. As he approached, I want to tell you all that in Park Heights, Baltimore, there's a Park Heights in every state. In that Park Heights in every state is this identical economic-wise. On the black side of Park Heights, extremely rugged, violent, and poor. You stay on that Park Heights Boulevard, and you go on the north side, and they are the VIPs, the dignitaries, the CEOs, and the politicians living in the 34th floor, the 64th floor, and they driving those voices that they don't have to operate because other people do for them. So when you're talking about black and white, black labor, white wealth, all you have to do is sometimes look at the boulevards and follow the money. And it will tell you the story without even talking to you. What about?
Well, good evening, everybody. I am give God the praise for being here. Thank God for Pastor Mike Morgan back there. For me, I'm getting to it definitely about relationships. Definitely thank God for Pastor D as well. All about the relationship. But to get to the point, the reason why we're here, I say this. My late bishop told me something he often said, you need a butler. A butler is a pastor there like myself. A butler brings people together. But you also need a Pharaoh. Pharaoh is somebody who can finance your dreams, so they know somebody who has the money. So this gentleman here, I consider a Pharaoh because of the economics of that he's been doing for over 35 years. And I think it comes to a point that we have to learn how, like she said, come together in unity. It takes unity. You want to get people in the office, and you want to get people out. We do that by doing what? Voting. But for some odd reasons, we have churches on every corner, but we don't work together. So we got to put a change. You make a change. I think today we're going to start doing something different. And to me, myself, a lot of times in life, you have people that are like thermometers. Everybody's like thermometers. But every so often, you have some people that are like thermostats. So when you got a thermostat, it changes the temperature in the room. You can change. So today, we're gonna make some changes today. We're gonna make some changes. It may be few in numbers, but it don't take a whole lot. It takes a what? A faithful few.
I thank you, Brother Watson. So talking about change, today, and I can guarantee you all this, today you're going to find out things that you thought you knew. This is very educational, but I'm going to also tell you today you're going to find out why when people say, I don't need that, I don't want that, that's nothing to me, why they stay in the very bottom of the pit and not know it. Whenever you are in a place where you can't do any better and nobody wants to do any better for you, it's not because you're a bad person. It's just because you won't respond to help when it gets there. And a lot of people in my 35 years have always said, I can do this on my own. And 35 years later, I know half of those persons and they never did get it done. So be very careful about how time passes you by, because if you allow it to pass you by, it'll pass you by and it'll leave you behind in a way that some people can't get over that barrier to entry. So we're going to get information and we're going to change how this works and what it looks like. But we will change. So our objective is to get 500 in here, and this is our neighborhood. And we're going to tell you why in the presentation. So here we go. Thanks for joining us. So we're going to start off here. In this church right here, my agency has given this church what we call an interagency agreement. And in this interagency agreement, we're going to build 500 entrepreneurs in this program at this church. And we're going to put them in $1 million business pilot program. This is Urban's ninth adopted neighborhood. We are not new to this. We've been doing this for many years, but it's new to the District Heights area here. So it's 500 families headed by entrepreneurs into a $1 million pilot program. And in doing that, an interagency agreement, which means this church is given a contract to house these 12 jobs here. And in housing these 12 jobs here in this church, these people are working to make sure this adopted neighborhood supports these 500 families that's headed by entrepreneurs. 12 positions. We're going to show you the type of talent that's going to be working out at this church. Sometimes we go places and we see buildings, and you all may have seen this before. Sometimes we go places, we see buildings, and then maybe 2 or 3 years later, we find out something about that building. We say, you know what? I've been walking by this building for years. I never knew they were doing that in that building. I wish I knew that 15 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, because I would have been knocked on that door and say, now that I know what you all are doing in that building, can I have a part of that? So information is always key, and sometimes a lot of information will leave us in a place where we can't strengthen ourselves by way of that opportunity, at least that one opportunity. So in this interagency agreement, an interagency agreement just means that we contract our work at this church under these 12 jobs. And then these 500 families headed by entrepreneurs, they are contracted in order for them to participate in this pilot program. Interagency agreement means more than one. So you have the church, you have Extraordinary Men by Pastor Robinson, you have, of course, GiveUrban.com, the corporate sponsor, and then you have the 500, all on this one contract in order for us to deal with the government the way the government would like us to deal with it. So I'm going to start off with the jobs, just to show you the kind of talent that's going to work out at this church under this contract. First, you have operations planning management. We're going to do this through Bowie State University. But if you all know people who can do this job, please, by all means, let us know. Because it's in this church, And here's the opportunity. Operations planning and management. So experience in business and economics, finances, and communications of related fields is what we are looking for. Business development executive. Business operations analyst. Sales executive consultant. Executive search consultant. Direct response manager. Director of membership, basically services. Direct marketing planner. Executive administrative assistant. Executive director of project development. Logistics. Telemarketing. 12 positions. 12 positions. We are looking to fill. We're going to do this through Bowie University, Bowie State University. But if you all know persons who have that qualification and can do this work, then they should give us a call because we are interested in it. Pastor Robinson and Pastor D introduced themselves, so now I'll introduce myself through this media here. So of course, Pastor D here. And myself here. The same thing is written is going to be articulated through this audio here. If it ever comes up. Stay with it for a minute. Stay with it for a second. Here we go. So on this particular machine, I don't know how to turn this up. Rick, Pastor D, how do we turn the speed up?
What you need turned up?
Yeah, it needs to go up. Yeah, put the sound on the speaker.
Right now.
Okay?
So you might have to do it on the side of the TV. Uncomfortable. You see?
J.D. Hawkins' passion for community service and aided by his professional experience as CEO for RecallInvestmentsPayUrban.com. A long-time civic leader in the greater Washington, D.C. area, he has been an active champion for numerous causes in
Let's start
areas
this
such
back
as
over so you all can
development,
catch this from the
leadership
beginning.
development, adult youth relations,
So this is going to introduce to you all myself through this audio. It's also written on the document, but here we go.
For those of us who have a passion and desire to step out into this arena, are often aware of the pitfalls that they have to be careful to avoid. The truth is, one mistake could have major consequences, but with a little guidance and wisdom from the right source could make all the difference in the world. J.D. Hawkins' passion for community service is aided by his professional experience as CEO for RecallInvestmentsPayUrban.com. A long-time civic leader in the greater Washington, D.C. area, he has been an active champion for numerous causes in areas such as economic development, leadership development, adult youth relations, entertainment, and education. Previously the owner of numerous small businesses throughout Washington, D.C. and currently in corporate leadership, he takes delight in helping launch positive new initiatives to create jobs and enhance life in the community. Headquartered in Washington, D.C., RecallInvestmentsPayUrban.com, previously Hilltop Coalition Funds and Commissions, was transformed in 2007 from a nonprofit to a for-profit dedicated to building a community outreach team to work block by block with local governments, businesses, neighborhood associations, schools, churches, and civic and nonprofit organizations to gain public support for often controversial urban issues affecting the disadvantaged community. By building a collaborating arm with neighborhoods, municipalities, and school districts, RecallInvestmentsPayUrban.com's success and responsibilities have been able to support a pipeline in one of the largest areas of interdependence in the underserved community as represented. The founder and leader of RecallInvestmentsPayUrban.com, specific and specialized consulting and strategic business development and public affairs, J.D. Hawkins, also known as the Minister of Economics, has led this company for 28 years, where J.D. remains committed to clients with planning and implementing programs where public support was critical to their success, including stronger business-to-business, developers, and community-concerted efforts, communications deemed equitable to end users' benefit. J.D. Hawkins, welcome to A Measure of Truth.
Okay, so that's a verbal introduction to myself. It said 28 years because I was done 7 years ago. Now I've been in business for 35 years. In these adopted neighborhoods, through my years of service, our interest is to be sure that 500 families are the subject of the type of investments that we are able to bring about through this church, through this adopted neighborhood, and at this time.
You repeat that 500 what?
500 families headed by entrepreneurs,
Families?
headed by entrepreneurs. So these families, they should have an entrepreneur in the home or tied to that family. These entrepreneurs, as it says on the screen here, these 500 entrepreneurs should be somewhere in one of these categories here. Somewhere in one of these categories. So I just scroll down the screen so you all can see them. In this program, under this adopted neighborhood, as long as they are not at $1 million, they can make an application with us. If they are more than $1 million, they are not allowed to make an application with us.
Under 1 million.
And they have to be under 1 million.
Adopt the neighbor.
Adopted neighborhood, yes, sir. Yes, sir. So here are the categories. Preferably, if out of this category is okay, we would take them. But in terms of micro grants, loans, and investments, they should be in these categories here, which is 7. So just a quick drop down on it. It's here. Wait, can you see? Okay, well, I'm gonna just only say it's vocational. I just give you three. If they are, a trucking company, if they are a carpenter company, something like that, if it's an electrician, just vocational industry. Yeah, mainly vocational. Sure, no problem. And then back to the introduction of myself here. On the right hand side, on the left hand side, here where the writing is in black. That's what that audio was or is. On the right hand side, these are links to me and my background. So Minister of Economics is the very person who does these kind of presentations. We're going to talk about the reasons why you should become informational driven and put that information to work for you in order to compete in today's marketplace. J.D. Hawkins, that link right there just goes to the website and it talks about consultant work. I'm not here to consult anything. I'm here, when the Minister of Economics said, if you will, to provide this information in this orientation. RipRiver.com is the agency itself. Paru Buoy 2 is a 1 hour orientation, and it takes you deep into our culture in terms of how we invest, why we invest, who benefits from it. Rip Urban is the website. It's Paru Buoy, Paru Buoy, and that's Paru. No, I'm gonna call it off for you. So that's P is in Paul, A is Apple, R is in Robert, U is in Ulysses, and then Buoy, Bowie, and then two eyes for twoeyes.com. Put you into a 1 hour orientation. Sure, no problem. And then because we bring money to these communities, corporatemembers.com is going to talk about what that is. Here, we want you all to know as business owners, when you're doing big business, people are interested in you. We have maybe 15 different agencies to do angel investments and capitalist investments. So in this particular video that's coming up, it's going to talk about the difference between an angel investor, so you all can get familiar with it, and what a capitalist investor does. Capitalist investor. And our job is to get your business ready for those type of people so they can put money in there. It is 4 minutes.
But as you're looking at both venture capitalists and angel investors, it's important to understand the difference. In this video, we're going to look at some of the differences between angel investors and venture capitalists, where they get the money and what it means for you and your business. Let's take a look. So first, let's start off with angel investors. Angel investors are most typically individuals. They're oftentimes either retired executives, CEOs, people who've had successful companies. And
You're done here, show hands. You're back in
this
here.
means that there aren't other people that we need to check with in terms of their investment. They don't have other expectations in terms of how long it may take to get their money back. Contrast this with venture capitalists. Venture capitalists typically raise money from other people, and those other people are typically called limited partners or LPs. LPs write large checks to venture capitalists, typically in millions of dollars. Because VCs are investing other people's money, they typically have to set expectations in terms of how long it will take to get that money back. So these funds are set up to return that money in that time. Both angel investors and venture capitalists have expectations that startups will grow and be successful. But the rate of growth and that level of success may be slightly different. These investors also invest in different stages of companies. So an angel investor is typically investing in very early stage companies. These are companies that are sometimes pre-revenue, pre-product. They may be someone in a garage with an idea, maybe a little further along where they have some idea, some progress, maybe even an MVP or a minimally viable product, but they don't have a ton of customers, they don't have a ton of traction. Venture capitalists, on the other hand, will more typically invest further on in the growth of the company. Typically, that company has some customers, some traction, and more importantly, they're writing different size checks. Angel investors are writing checks somewhere in the range from $5,000 to $50,000. Most typically, venture capitalists invest millions of dollars into a company, and these are invested in what's called rounds. So the first round is alphabetic.
Those are the type of dollars they invest.
In each round, venture capitalists are typically looking for 20 to 30% equity in the company. Because venture capitalists are investing larger sums of money, they also have expectations of having a board seat. And having a board seat means they have influence and control of the company, and they may be able to fire you as a CEO. So just be aware of what board control is and what that might mean for the future direction of the company. At the end of the day, the board is your ally, and they want you to be successful. But if they don't agree with the direction that you're going, if you don't own the majority of your company, they can direct your business in a different direction. Angel investors typically don't take a board seat, and they don't ask for control most typically. In both cases, angel investors and venture capitalists want the company to be successful, but they may do that in different ways. If you're a startup, you really need a reason to figure out how much money you need to raise. If you're looking to raise less than $100,000, you probably don't want to talk to venture capitalists. They probably don't want to talk to you. Angel investors are probably a better match for you. If you're looking for more than $1 million, then take a look at my other video on pitching to venture capitalists. See if that can help you as well. At the end of the day, what venture capitalists and angel investors are looking to help your company grow. And finding the right fit isn't just money, it's really finding the right partner for your business. You want to make sure that the relationship you have with venture capitalists, with your angel investors, is a positive one. These connections can really open doors for your business and unlock growth potential. So really think about who you want to call when you have a problem, who you want to really be working with. Your relationship with your investors will often last many years, so you want to make sure you have a positive relationship. And it isn't just about money, it's who can really open connections, who can open doors, who can be a really positive ally and resource for you as you grow your business. If you want to build something awesome, you need a great team. That means both investors and employees, people who are really rallying behind you and giving the right resources to be successful. So if you're interested in angel investing and why I became an angel investor, hit the eye up there in the corner and learn more. And if you're an entrepreneur interested in startups, technology, design, hit subscribe and join me for the journey. Thanks so much. I'm very, very excited.
Okay, so did you all get the gist of what he was saying as far as angel investors and capitalist venture investors?
This year, okay, I started about 7 months ago, back in April. So as you can see, April 1st made about $16, and I grew.
Okay, so an angel investor is someone like myself. I look at these companies and I look at them in a way that are more lenient than some of these other people because we commercialize these companies. Your company, as he said in that clip there, it's not just about the money. It's also about the relationship. And if you want to go ask someone for their money, then if you come at them coming out the gate improperly, they may not say anything to you. They just say, give us what we need and come back to us. But what they will do is hold that against you because there's such a thing as high risk when it comes to other people's money and who they deal with. Over here in this adopted neighborhood with these 500 families headed by entrepreneurs, our job is to put them in this system and get them ready to talk to our investors. Not them going to those investors ill-prepared, and next thing you know, they get discriminated against, and sometimes they complain and say, Well, I talked to two investors, or tried to get a contract, I tried to get a grant, and nothing works. These people are discriminating against me. Like Pastor C, not Pastor D, not to be discriminatory and to be pro-black, but I am pro-black. My position is to make sure blacks get equal, equitable opportunities, but it does start with preparation. They just not going to hold it against you if you're black. They just hold it against you if you're black and you come to them ill prepared. That's basically how that works. So don't give them any reasons to not allow you to grow your business. Just take advantage of this opportunity because we put these 500 families in here. Entrepreneurs hit it, and we put them in a smallest business commercialization profile, and we build those companies out so they can use our money. Right there on the very bottom, you see Urban Smart City Adopted Neighborhood. In that last drop down, Urban Smart City Adopted Neighborhood, we are on our 9th adopted neighborhood. Once we get to 500 families into this District Heights adopted neighborhood, then we connect that to those other adopted neighborhoods, just to kind of show you what the evaluation is. When we connect this adopted neighborhood with 500 families in this $50 million pilot program, we connect that valuation to those other 9 adopted neighborhoods. So when we represent your company is not a company that's worth, let's say, $100,000. No, the financial statement that suggests your company is profitable goes through our agency across the 9 adopted neighborhoods. So you go from, if you're doing $100,000 a year, you go from that to $100 million valuation based on these adopted neighborhoods. So we just kind of grandfather the 500 businesses into that profile for that meeting.
So, can I ask a question?
Sure.
That's pretty much put equity in your company by you guys buying. Basically saying the credit will be formally coming through you. If I'm understanding that correctly.
All of the above, and you are very, very good observation because it is, and we'll get into that in this profile. But when it comes down to business, see these people, they can care less about your service. What they look at is your credit, because when it comes down to it, you can be a $200 million company, but if you have bad credit and you're a $200 million company, what they're looking at is these people have some issues with their credit, and we don't want that to impede on our business, because if they're doing 200 million, that's a lot of money. But people who are at 200 million as a corporation, they want triple that. So they treat it the same as if you were at 100,000. They still want you to have your business in good standings, bringing that to these next agencies here.
It would seem that the angel investors are not less controlling of your business versus the other capitalists.
They just controlling, but they scrutinize your business the same. Okay. Nobody wants to give away money that's going to be mismanaged in 2 days. Like some people go and buy a boat. So we advance you $100,000, and for some reason you felt like you needed a boat. So they look at that. It doesn't matter. It's not the money.
My point is that the capitalists pretty much dictate what you can do with your business. They're more controlling.
The angel investor is a little controlling too.
Okay, thank you.
A little bit controlling.
Thank you.
But here, CLC, by a show of hands, how many of you all know of that agency? Okay. And BBB, how many by a show of hands? Okay. So we here talking about putting 500 families inside this system through this church. And being managed through a contract from this church. So we hear this all the time. The black people can't work together. We hear that. They told us that, and we believe it. But let me show you what happens when you work together. So we're going to go with CLC. CLC is going to be the first stop because most people know BBB, but a lot don't know CLC. The places you go, the Goodwill, the Salvation Armies, these places. You're gonna see that CFC on their window. And you know why it's on their window? And I'm gonna get this so that we'll see. But I just want to give you all a story real quick. There is a rideshare program by the name of Lyft. Everybody knows Lyft, right? So Lyft got smart, and Lyft took and said that there's 450 million Americans here in the States. 450 million. So let's just say out of 50 million of that 450 million Americans use the Lyft every day to get to work and wherever they go. These 50 million, just as an example, they get in that Lyft service every day, and Lyft has took, without their permission, and rounded off the dollar. So let's just use 20 cents. 50 million at 20 cents turns out to be millions of dollars every day that you do not even have the right to say, I don't want to support your 10 nonprofits, because that's what they do. They take the balance of that in dollar every day from those 50 million who entered that system, and then they put that money to the side and give it to their buddies who may have a nonprofit. So this is how smart these people are when they doing business. Now, I'll be the first to say I'm not mad at them, because it's a capitalist society in any way, not by any means necessary. But if you're going to make money, you make money, and you make a lot of as much as you can. But that's what they did. Now let's go to something that's not as sometimes I can say that's an ethical violation. But who's going to come down on them? Because the same way they're doing that against our will, they probably talking to the president, feeding his family. Ain't nothing gonna happen to them. This is what they've been doing for a long time. Disclaimer, I'm just saying, could be talking to the president, I don't know. But here in the combined federal campaign, for you all who don't know that, when they tell us we can't work together, let's see what happens when they work together. And the reason why all of these nonprofits, the Red Cross, you go to Red Cross, you're going to see CFC on their window. You go to Goodwill, you're going to see CFC. Any nonprofits that's bringing in millions of dollars, you're going to see that CFC on their window. And this is the reason why. And I know you know that this is big business, and they doing it, and we can do it. So here it is, a quick snapshot.
Brian Dean here, and I'm super excited to announce that my latest course from the SEMrush Academy is now available. It's called Mastering Digital PR. Mastering Digital PR is an in-depth
CFC.
Welcome to the 2021 Combined Federal Campaign, a program of the U.S. Office of Personnel Management, one of the largest and most successful workplace giving campaigns in the world. The CFC is an opportunity for all of us in the federal community to pledge monetary donations and volunteer time to our favorite charities. This year, we're celebrating the 60th anniversary of the CFC and the $8.5 billion raised during that time, which is just incredible. Looking back gives us a chance to see how far we've come. When the CFC began in 1961, Alan Shepard had just become the first American astronaut in space. The average cost of a new home was about $19,000, and President Kennedy established both the Peace Corps and the CFC. In its first years, the CFC started with less than 50 charities, and today, we're able to support more than 5,000. The campaign is a long-standing federal tradition that allows us to make a difference in our local communities across the nation and around the world. These days, we know there are a lot of charitable giving options out there. You may be wondering, why should I give through the CFC? One great reason is we can give through our paycheck. Designating a recurring gift through payroll deduction is easy and has a greater impact over the year. We can each choose our favorite charities from the vetted charity list, and even give to multiple charities at one time. The world is a better place when change makers like us give together through the CFC. This year's campaign theme, you can be the face of change highlights the federal employees and retirees who changed the world through CFC. By joining this community of giving, we add another dimension to who we already are: family members, public servants, leaders, colleagues, and now change makers. We don't always get to see the positive impact of our generosity, but when we do, we can clearly see why our gifts are so critical. Let's hear just a few of the stories from CFC charities, federal employees, and those who have been helped.
So there's an impact and power giving.
I'm Will Shafroth, President and CEO of the National Park Foundation. The National Park Foundation raises private money to support programs and projects that the Park Service couldn't otherwise do on its own. For instance, we are restoring the Yellowstone cutthroat trout in Yellowstone National Park. We are working to build trails in Yosemite National Park. These are the things that wouldn't otherwise happen but for private philanthropy. We're also working to interpret our nation's history and culture, including that of African Americans. We've recently made investments to acquire the birth and life homes of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. In Atlanta. We're also working around establishment of the Harriet Tubman National Historic Trail and other places.
Your European operations is taking on black causes and making billions of dollars doing it.
That we help support around Cesar Chavez's cabin in the Central Valley of California and places like the missions in San Antonio. These are important stories that tell us about contributions of communities that have not been told in sufficient ways. And the National Parks is the perfect place to do that. My own experience during the pandemic was I needed to get out from a place like this right here at Fletcher's Cove, which is along the C&O Canal in Washington, D.C. I rode my bike along here to really reconnect with nature. And most people don't know that there's a national park probably a lot closer to you than you think. There are many national park sites in most major cities in the United States, that many of which focus on history and culture of our country and allow us to connect with our past. They're not all big Western national parks, many of them are in our own backyards. And one of the great things about national parks that we all experience is awe and wonder. And I think we're really fortunate to have this collection of 423 places all over our nation that provide us this refuge in the outdoors and our connection to our past. Federal employees understand the value of public service and the importance of giving back to our country in many ways. And I think that our national parks are one great place to do that. When we're standing on the overlook of the Grand Canyon, we get a sense of our place in the universe. When we see the bed that Dr. Martin Luther King slept on as a young child, we realize that we all come from the same place. We experience time with family in national parks that connects us to each other and to a common place and a common heritage. National parks can bring us all together. They really serve as our common ground as a nation. It's important that we all feel like we're a part of them. If you love these places and you experience these places by yourself and with your family, consider giving back to the Combined Federal Campaign.
Okay, so the CFC, man, that
My
you
name
all,
is Trina Redmond, and I am a CFC supporter.
man, that you all know what that agency does. So we're going to talk about a nonprofit being Extraordinary Men of God, one here, and also Higher Praise as a nonprofit. When it comes down to nonprofits, as you see, these people have made $8.5 billion, and they take on a lot of causes. But in these adopted neighborhoods, because we're doing it through the mayor's office, the federal campaign, federal government trickles down dollars. And they trickle those dollars down to local governments, like, for example, District Heights. That's a locality. They trickle those
also heard you say, people give money in the blind. So when they give money in the blind, they don't know who they really give it to. Right. And they don't know where their money is going. So I kind of understand what you're saying about that. If I have been a recipient of money.
Yeah, so he has a CFC, platform and certification, right?
Yeah.
So he's benefiting from that. And those 500 will benefit from it. It's a lot of people don't understand when it comes down to money. We think money is coming in the form of having a bank account with some money that you can buy some commodities. That is not money. That's just spending cash. Money is wealth. You have to align yourself with wealth in a way that it shares and trickles down with you. So with these 500 families, we put them in this pilot program at $1 million valuation per company. Right back then and there, we start the campaign on their behalf as a part of a distribution channel, non-adopted neighborhood using our financial statements. So they are no longer looked at a very small black-owned and operated business. They look at the financial statement that backs these people, and we can kind of sort of push them forward, because when it comes down to high risk, nobody wants to deal with a company that they're going to lose money on. That's not how this works. They're only going to use you if they think they can grow from you. And how do they determine that? They determine that by your financial statement, your credit, and also your service, and your representation, and also your preparation. They use all these 5 standards in order for you to know that they mean business, in order for you to let them know you also mean business, because you have met those standards. So this is the reason for this program. Now, B&B or BBB, everybody knows what that is, but let's check them out. Really find out what they do. This is a great service when you want to make money.
I could turn anyone into a beach bum. Hi, great stop.
Hey there, that's right. I see.
Animation.
Well, either way, you might want to listen in for a few seconds while I explain what is happening here. My name is Morgan, Marketing and Communications Intern at Wisconsin EDC.
That's as high as it'll go.
I repeatedly get asked one question: where are you working now that you're done with school? Guess what? 9 times out of 10, when I'm talking to someone my age, I get a blank stare. What's the EDB, they might ask. Well, I've been launching a huge description of all the services we provide, all the community building things we do, all the trust we help establish, all the ethics we practice. So let's be honest, we all have the attention spans of the right providing email. So I'll lay it out to you as quickly as we can. Your BBB is a nonprofit organization that helps people like you and me find businesses, brands, and charities that they can trust. It's that simple. How do we do this? We do this by having trustworthy consumer reviews of products and services, which basically means that we make sure they're legit. Providing accreditation to businesses, which means that businesses meet our standards for trust and ethics, from shopping for your first new car or your first house in so much easier. We handle complaints, and we process our own ethical standards. If I could sum up the BBB in 3 words, I'd say this: we help you. If you're still unsure what BBB is all about, visit our website, bbb.org/wisconsin. And don't forget, follow us on social media for updates on scams and more.
I'm Michelle Corey, President and CEO of the Award Better Business Bureau. Did you know that this BBB has provided 7.7 million instances of service to the public so far in 2016?
Okay, so BBB, the understanding we have about BBB is there's a place you're going to go and make a complaint. That's just by a show of hands. Is that what we think BBB is? Just we going to go make a complaint? BBB is so much more than that. But if you notice what their alignment is, They are putting nonprofits and charities and small businesses in there so that they'll know where they are, so that they can help them. Their service is not to take complaints, it's to make sure these companies get closer to the money. We just believe that if you have a problem with a business or something, that we're gonna go over there and we're gonna make a complaint. That's not why they're there. Taking complaints is just something they do. When you go over there, they're gonna help you get to the money. That's what they pay for. They are a nonprofit to help businesses, whether they nonprofit charities or for-profit businesses, find the money to help the economy. Same thing with this adopted neighborhood is about. That's why we in here. We're doing the same thing these European companies are doing, but we are doing it, and versus them just doing it and we doing nothing. Because if we leave it up to them to always do it and we do nothing, then they're not gonna just open up the door and say, people come in here, we welcome you. That's not how this is done. They let you in when you are ready to do business to their standards. And unfortunately, they believe that as African Americans, we are never ready because sometimes we prove to them that we are ill prepared. So this is for this is the reason for the adopted neighborhood, to make sure 500 families per adopted neighborhood are well prepared. We prepare them so we can get them money. Same thing BBB, no difference. Sometimes when you black, they say, well, and they find all these kind of reasons. But I just showed you all, CFC, BBB. My man right there knows exactly what that is. That's all we are doing. Same thing from this church. Come on, bro.
When you say to make sure we're well prepared, we're talking about licenses, bonding.
All of the above. All of the above. Everything your business needs, we want to make sure we commercialize your business where we can put some money to it. Yes, you are. Yes, you are. So here, while they want to keep us out and they tell us all these stories, so these are my mentors. I deal with economists, so this is one of their kids. So you know, pay close attention to what these people do and what they say.
It's time to win. from top of the ground. Let's listen to a great set, changing how you throw it
We could
down.
have done better had we always spent more. Too bad that only happens when there's a world war. You can carve all you want about stats and progression. Can you deny World War II cut short of depression?
Wow, one data point and you're jumping for joy. The last time I checked, wars only destroy. There was a multiplier. The subject just shrank as we used their resources for every new tank. Pretty perverse to call that prosperity. Ration meat, ration butter, the life of austerity. When that war spending ended, your friends tried disaster. Yet the economy thrived and grew faster.
You too only see what you want to see. The spending on war really pushed GDP. Unemployment was over, almost down to zero. That's why I'm the master. That's why I'm the hero.
Creating employment is straightforward class when the nation's at war. And there's a plan. Every worker will staff in the army and fleet. We have full employment and nothing to eat.
Which one should we choose? From up from left, the fight continues. Changing how you set it round. It's time to win. From top or from the ground. Let's listen to a great set, changing how you throw it down.
Not the ends themselves. People work to live better and put food on the shelf. Real growth means production of what people demand. That's entrepreneurship, not your central plan. My solution is simple and easy to handle. It's spending that matters. Why is that such a scandal? Money slushes through the pipes and the sluices. Provide a bite in the economy's juices. It's just like an engine that's all they got done. To bring it to life, we need no spark. Spending's the lifeblood that gets the flow going. Where it goes doesn't matter. Just get spending clothing like it's no matter. That's a general flex. But don't measure for help you only summon a rope. So spending's not free, that's the heart of the matter. Too much is wasted as trophies get fatter. The economy's not a car. There's no engine to stall. No extra new fixes. There's no it at all. The economy's us. We don't need a mechanic. Put away the wrenches. The economy's organic.
Which one should we choose? From up from left, the fight continues. Changing how you set it round. It's time to win. From top or from the ground. Let's listen to a great set, changing how you throw it
So
down.
what do you do to help those unemployed? This is the question you seem to avoid when we're in a mess. When you have us just wait, doing nothing until markets equilibrate. I don't want to do nothing. There's plenty to do.
The question I ponder is who plans for who? Do I plan for myself? But leave it to you. I want plans by the many, not by the few. Let's not repeat what created our trouble. I want real growth, not a series of bubbles. Stop bailing out losers. Let prices work. If we don't try to steer them, they won't go berserk.
Come on, are you kidding? The Wall Street gyrations challenge your worldview of self-regulation. Even you must admit that the lesson we've learned is more oversight needed, or else we'll get fired.
Oversight. The government's won't be in bed with those gold-reading texts and the problems that they play. Capitalism's about profit and loss. You fail as a loser, there's no end to the cost. The lesson I've learned is how little we know. The world is complex, not a circular flow. The economy's not a classic and master in college. To think otherwise is a pretense of knowledge.
Which one should we choose? From up from the fight continues. Changing how you set it round. It's time to win. From top or from the ground. Let's listen to a great set, changing how you throw it
Get
down.
on your high horse and you're off to the races. I look at the world on a case-by-case basis. When people are suffering, I roll up my sleeves and do what I can to cure disease. The future's uncertain, our outlooks are frail. That's why free markets are so prone to fail. In a volatile world, we need more discretion. So state intervention can counter depression.
People are in chess menus move on a board at your whim. Their dreams and desires ignored. When political incentives, discretion's a joke. No dials are twisted, just ferrous and smoke. We need stable foods and real market prices. So prosperity emerges and cut short the crisis. Give us a chance so we can discover the most valuable ways to serve one another.
Beautiful chance so we can discover the valuable ways to support one another. Real talk.
Which way should we choose? Or from up or turn down, the fight continues. Kings and high second round. It's time to win. Or from the top or from the ground. Let's listen to the race. Kings and high going down.
So those two economists who I've been following forever, they put this together to educate the American people that the bureaucracy is only to make you believe they're working for you, and in fact, you are left to do it yourself. And if you don't do anything for yourself, then they won't do anything with you. And again, I can't stress enough that in the adopted neighborhoods, we prepared 500 companies to make sure that they have a fighting chance and that the system doesn't just disregard them because of the color of their skin or because they are ill prepared as a business. On that Senate floor, they fight all the time. They say, we're going to do this regulations, this policy is an issue, we're going to fight, we're going to have it out. They're not fighting for anything. The person who was fighting for the common man won the fight, and they gave it to the one who was fighting for the government. They tell you in their media pieces that they're not going to do anything for you if you don't force them. And they're not going to do anything for you as an individual. They only do, especially for black people, in large numbers with a great voice, right? You can't deny that. You have to keep that in mind. If you're going to get by in today's post-coronavirus era, nothing's the same anymore. 2020, they got a whole new ball game, and they are not taking any prisoners, meaning that the American people doesn't mean anything, not unless you know how this is done. This is the way they are playing. So we're talking about young people. This is Rip Urban, who I represent as the CEO.
Our cooperative membership and sponsorship has joined 500 neighbors to launch Uprising Community and Business District Improvement Solutions. Being home to 500 entrepreneurs under one roof, a co-op investment into our membership ensures a proactive measure to enrich the benefit of community investment experience. Backed by $1 trillion gateways for greater earnings and investments right to the backyard of your neighborhood. Recalling investments to the urban hub, adopted neighborhood. Our investments are designated to grow our community by the capacity use. 40% for startup businesses, 40% in real estate interests, and 20% in small business investments. Be a part of our residents' earning income reinvestment and community reach out. Think about adopting a neighborhood and joining a co-op today. Contact Recall Investments to urban.com. 240-273-4767.
That number is disconnected. This video was done for a while back ago. That's the adopted neighborhood. So in these adopted neighborhoods, we are looking for these families who have persons who are mainly in vocational. So we are talking about the electricians, we talk about the plumbers, we talk about the roofers, the cement masons, all of these people. In our community, you're not going to find persons who are not across a massive platform. But you're not going to find black people in underserved communities going to school to become software engineers. You're not going to find them dealing with AI mechanisms. This is not what we do if we're in underserved communities. And I always say that if you haven't made $1 million, there's a reason for you not a millionaire. It's not by mistake. It's probably by default. There's probably no fault of your own. But again, when we finish this presentation, if it doesn't move you in a way that you respond to your own vanguard and your own growth, then there's nothing we can do more. I just know that 2020 says we're going to give you food stamps, we're just not going to give you money. But if that's the case, if that's what they have, then what about the 5 people who made $1 billion a day at the very onset of coronavirus? What about those 5 people? How did they do that? Because they set themselves up and they created a scenario and they are billions of dollars every day. And we are subjected to food stamps if we run out of money. So this is what we're trying to stop that type of genocide. Now, I'm going to point out here, right here, where my point is. So you're talking about pedigree. How many times do you all hear that word in your home by show of hands, pedigree? Okay, so I have two business people in here, the successful business people, and I'm not sure about everyone else, but just because the brother in the purple here at CLC and my brother that I invited, I know these are successful business people. But pedigree is a person, as soon as they step inside of a corporation, the person who's interviewing them knows exactly what that is. So sometimes we call these types of people top tier performers. Top tier performers are great. Sometimes we say we have to go through the chain of command. But pedigree people who have that in them, as soon as they go into a place, the person's know right off the bat. I just recently got a 20-year contract with an energy company, right? And I was just trying to see where the money was, so I called the company. And I said, I see this energy is kind of sort of taking a ramp up. Tell me more about it. By the time I finished talking to the person, says, come and meet our CEO. And I went over there and met the CEO, and I sat in his office, and the conversation went like this. With JD, to be honest with you, I need you to tell me how this is done. And I was like, I don't know how it's done. That's why I called you. But for him to say that, it ended up with a 20-year contract. And the ones who've been talking to me know we are trying to get the energy bills eradicated. It was through that contract. So when we talk about commercializing people's company, sometimes you can do the service, you just don't know how to speak to the money. And if you don't know how to speak to the money, you won't do the service because they already going to try to give it to other people. So this is the reason for these adopted neighborhoods. We're going to talk about something that you all should want to know. Quasi-government. Quasi-government. This government that we think we're talking to is not the government that it really is. It's just a face. But a quasi-government is who really runs the country. So we're going to talk about that through this quick clip. Just so that we'll know what time it is, because our people need to know who they're talking to and when they're talking to them, so they'll know exactly what they're saying.
Quasi-governmental corporations are mandated by law to perform a subset of proxy-based mechanisms in network entities into implementation stage. Government's reach has thus grown by networking with proxies. Size of public sector employment remains the same as proxies are not counted as federal employees. Liberals authorize proxies to operate social programs. Conservatives see potential cost-saving methods associated with proxies.
So proxy government is a government that the government has given them all the legal rights to operate.
If you just watched our last video, or you wondered what the GSE is, it's a
quasi-government is a government that the government has given all the legal rights to on their behalf. So sometimes we go to these government agencies and we talking to the agencies and we talking to the wrong people because it's not them. You need to find out who's behind that government and talk to that agency. So that's a quasi-government. Just so that you all know, when we navigating through, when we getting through the gatekeeper, you don't have to talk to the government about anything. You need to talk to the source that is actually in charge of the government as we understand it. You got to figure that out. So this is the reason for the commercialization of these companies and these families. And then on the flip side of the quasi-government, they have this one here, which is considered a government-sponsored enterprise.
If you just watched our last video, or you wondered what a GSE is, it's a government-sponsored enterprise. It's set up by Congress to reduce the risk to investors and increase transparency of the loans. While they're not owned by the government, they have the express and implicit guarantee that the government will not let them fail or default. As a result, lenders grant Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac favorable interest rates, and investors offer more of their securities on the secondary market. Types of government loans are FHA and VA loans. An FHA loan is insured by the government, and a VA loan is backed by the federal government as well for veterans. Down payment requirements are different for all of these as well. The minimum down payment for an FHA loan is 3.5%. For a VA loan, the minimum down payment is 0, at least most of the time unless it's a jumbo. Thanks for joining me. Please check out the next video on this series. See you there.
So if you all didn't catch that, he says if you come through the government-sponsored enterprise, the likelihood that you're not going to have to put any money up for anything related to a lot of these services is probably going to be 90% guaranteed that you can keep your money and they'll deal with you according to their policies. But if you don't go through the government-sponsored enterprise who actually owns that piece of the government, then you're going to have to, they're going to charge you and to the point that you may not be able to get in there. So again, these government-sponsored enterprises and these quasi-governments, you got to find out who's behind the government that we think we know and get to them. Again, this is what this opportunity presents because why? Why do you not gain the kind of support you need? Because you don't know what to ask a lot of times. And if you're not at $1 million, it's a reason why you're not there. Especially if you're a business. If you're a business and you're not at $1 million, then you really want to kind of reevaluate your business practices and then find a new connect, if you will. Because when it comes down to connections in the business world, that is real talk. You can't get through anything if you don't know somebody. And nobody who's going to break you in $2 million will want to deal with you if you're not dealing to the benefit of them being able to benefit from you. So everybody's benefiting from everybody. We're going to talk real quick about, here it is. We want to get busy. We're going to talk about salaries. So we are free. They say we were free in 1863. We were free in 1863. Yeah, and we still waiting for the 40 mules, the 40 acres in the mule. We're still waiting on that. So as you see right there, tell me why is it that these people are asking a question? Why salary increases do not keep pace with inflation, right? Inflation is at 3.12%. Doesn't seem like a lot. 3.12%. And they want to know, why does it not keep pace with inflation? So just two quick paragraphs for you all. Despite severe talent shortages, meaning they don't have good talent, and the ongoing impact of the Great Resignation, Corporate salary increased budgets trailed inflation in 2022, surprising many leaders. For example, in the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics recently reported 7.9% increase in the Consumer Price Index before seasonal adjustments over the 12 last months. So it reports the U.S. national unemployment rate dropped in March, must be talking about 2022, at 3.6%. What these people are in essence saying is because there's no talent, there's no need to increase salary. And because they would tell you anything, they blame it on no talent in the marketplace. But there's nothing but talent trying to get in the marketplace. So because they say there's no talent in the marketplace, then they don't increase your living earnings as a way of making sure that you don't get a reasonable living lifestyle wage type of thing. They say. So, number one, inflation increases are not the same. When inflation and salary increases generally move in the same direction, inflation and salary in the same direction, right? They are different. They are different. And so it goes to say, driven by different inputs, inflation represents changes in the cost of market, basket of goods, such as groceries and fuel. Wages, on the other hand, are driven by changes to supply and demand for labor, which can cause by demographic trends. So what these people are saying that if you are in a place and your economy is weak, they're not going to increase any earnings on your wages. And here is the catch-22 about that you all want to keep in mind. The catch-22 with them not increasing any kind of earnings. I'll take you to this living wage here. In this living wage here, what is, and this is the state of Maryland, right about here. What does the living wage law require certain contractors and subcontractors working on state-funded services contracts? RealBurger.com is taking 500 families and putting them into government and commercial contracts. That's the reason for having you all come here. We put you all in those types of contracts. But here is what the law is saying. The living wage law requires certain contractors and subcontractors working on state-funded service contracts to pay their employees an hourly rate that meets or exceeds the living wage rate established by the commissioner's law. So they're talking about $14.55. Right about right about here, $14.55 down to $10.03 is what the wages is. So let's do some arithmetic. Let's just say if you're going to do $14 an hour, and that's 40 hours, that's $28,000 a year, right? $28,000 a year you're going to make in 2020. Now, they're going to take about 30% of that in taxes for that year. So now you went from 28,000 to about 21, right? About 21,000. So you already lost 8,000 going out the gate. Now you're going to have to pay your rent. Let's just say 500. So that's another 6,000 for the year out the gate. So now that you lost an additional 6,000, you're down to about what? 17,000? 15,000. 15,000? Now you have to factor in your cell phone. That's another down of what? $600 for the year, $50 a month. So now you're down to 14,000 from that 28. When you go and you have to pay your taxes, you have to buy food, you have to put about $100 or $200 a year in your car. A month. So that's another $1,200 or so, if not $2,400 for the year. So that $28,000 before it's all said and done is going to be around, to say the least, somewhere around 13,000. Let's just say 13 or 14,000. Now, that being said, that 14,000 you have, I didn't talk about paying your car note. I didn't talk about buying your clothes. I didn't talk about going to the movies. I didn't even talk about anything other than the 3.12% interest living wage. So that means inflation has ate up another 4,000 or 5,000 of that. So at the end of the year, you had a $28,000 job per year, but you really only earned about $2,800 after you do all of the audits of what you paid into the system and everything that came out of it. $2,800 a year, but you work 40 hours a week. So when you think about why you don't respond to opportunities and why you think blacks can't help one another, when you think about all that, just think about who organized this infrastructure. And just think about in 2020, how 4 people made billions of dollars a day when everybody else was in the house scared to come out, right? This kind of thing. So make no mistake about what's going on, what's really going on. Come on, brother. Okay, no problem. So you want to just think about that.
A lot of times, I think you also be put up in this system. We talk about the car, we talk about the place, we talk about the food. Because nobody gonna give us no food. And 9 out of 10 times, we're not gonna get a car. So we have to first about transportation. And our transportation back and have that out of for that. So a lot of things is we self-inherent. In other words, if you go out to buy a car, you know we got to make that. We go out and buy a house, we buy a big house, little house, whatever kind of house. Sometimes we might buy a house that we can't afford. We self-inherit a lot of problems that we really don't really have to have. We great big house, sit on our house. You know what I'm saying? I can understand you have kids and stuff like that. Kids cost money too. So basically, a lot of times, we have to be our own self-entrepreneur ourselves. Because basically, everybody talking about, they have 4, 5, 7, 8, 9, 10 streams of income that's coming in, and they also get dollars and cents from us at the same time.
I agree. And those dollars and cents go out every day at 6 o'clock. Every day, if you look in the black community, all the merchants are from other places. All of the people who come in driving in nice cars are there because they are part of the economy that support the money going out at 6 o'clock. So when we talk about we self-inherent, but watch this. Because you're right, brother. Let me show you something that's even more drastic than that. Because sometimes we self-inherent. Like I have a need. I want a Benz, right? So I'm going by the Benz. But watch this. When you speak of decisions we make, look what they did. And look what they do. As we talk about what we do in the name of just living. So here, right about here, 1980. 1980 was maybe the 5th amnesty program that the United States had in 1980 under Reagan. But in 1865, as soon as slavery ended, they had the first amnesty program. So when they had no more use for us, or by law they couldn't take advantage of us, then they had the first amnesty program in 1865. They started letting people from around the world come in just so that we could not reap any benefit. We're moving up to 1980. Reagan did an amnesty program where he let 3 million people in, and then turned right around in 1990. The father, George Bush, let 20 million in. So we started talking about in our community, the Spanish people, disclaimer, we're just saying what was being said. The Spanish people are the new niggas on the block because at 25 million in 10 years, they showed up in a strong way. So this thing is, that's not me, that's what the community says. Back then, when all this was going on. But if you have 23 million people coming in at one time over a 10-year period, and they are getting all the jobs. I see black companies all the time, and I don't see any black employees. I see Arabic, I see Spanish, I see everybody but black, and these are black-owned companies. So how we gonna feed? How we gonna have money if only thing we as a people wanna leave us off with their food stamps? Because we won't give ourselves any opportunity. How are we gonna change that? But to this point, 1980, $100,000, as you see in there, at 3.12%, in today's, you see down here, $363,000. This is what has happened over the last 22 years. If we didn't have 100,000 in 1980, and then the cost of living says, in order for you to be in a range that's acceptable, you gotta live at least with 363,000, according to their statistics. Over 22 years, that's a lot of money to be behind the 8 ball. So let's just talk about these young boys walking around with nothing to do. And they have no skills. If these young guys have no skills, nothing to do, they're not sitting here getting this education. They're not going to probably get it in their homes. But they have not a clue. If it's 363,000 right now, based on 3.12%, and they have not a clue, then they walking into triple that in the next 5 years. That they don't even have a job, but yet they're making children. So when we talk about what we're not going to do for our young people and for ourselves, this is what these people are doing. And this is the reason why we're doing these adopted neighborhoods, to get this information out, get this system in place so we don't have to be $363,000 behind in the rear because we don't know how to compete or we don't understand the practices and the policies. That all can change. So any questions? No, no, yes,
Again, when they go sign up for a job, or they go get a job, and they want to take their union, they're not even able to get a job. A lot of jobs are going to have a good union. But what I'm saying is, that's another stop us from moving ahead, that our young people don't know, or our families not even really looking at that. These kids continue on smoking marijuana, they are not going to get that type of education. They're not going to get that type of job. And they're definitely going to be behind that 8 ball. $300,000. I know as a kid, I know Sylvia always make almost $125,000 at a certain age coming out and shoot. You say $300,000, and I just know that they're not making no money now. They don't have the skills of the trade or the ability of getting a job. And I think a lot of them will be not going to be.
And they're going to have a fighting chance unless we form up and give them the battleground they need in order to fight back economically and across the board. Yes, sir, brother.
Dr. Gucci, is there going to be something fix where some of these young trades to these companies, like plumbing, electricity?
70 trades. We have 70 of them. They'll get trained and get jobs. Yes, sir.
They're that far behind, you get training, catch up.
Yeah. They're not gonna just get training, but they're gonna also get educated. There's one thing about black young men, if you don't educate them and train them, they're gonna destroy themselves. That's the sad irony of it all. So some of us grew up at a time where the big boys in the community talk to us. These kids don't get that. Nobody's talking to them. They need to be talked to, but they also need to be cuddled in a system that's going to nurture them. So that's what this is.
That's why I say they have to understand about the slavery of dollars and cents, of being an entrepreneur, and learn how to get a positive streaming of money.
Yes, yes.
Because everybody, like I said, everybody you're talking about, all they talk about 7, 8, 9, 10 stream of money. They're all harder. Same for kind harder. You know, much harder. All got different streams of money.
Yeah. All of them have that acquisition of economies, and all the economies they have their money tied in their business are the economies at the top of the economic chain, if you will. So we can do it. We may not be able to catch up with them. At least we don't have to leave our children in a place that they are in a bad place. And my brother, you talked about balance sheets. So we are on the balance sheet here, you all. We talk about the balance sheet here. So we are business people, and we want to come to people who have money, and we want to talk to them. But these people right here, they want to ask you two things: if you're a startup and if you're an existing business. And this is what we do for these founding families, so they don't run across that challenge or that barrier to entry. What they want to ask you for right off the bat, and even if you had made no dollars, they want to still want to see this for $0, and they want to ask you for some additional information on top of it. But basically what they want is, as it says here, what is a balance sheet? So the term balance sheet refers to financial statements that reports a company's assets, liabilities, shareholder equity at a specific point in time. So I'm gonna just leave it at that. So they want to look at what you all are doing, and if you can't explain that to them to the satisfaction, this is what goes on in our community. We call it discrimination. These people, they discriminate, but they discriminate on things that says to them that you are high risk. Now they're gonna frown at you. And we're gonna take it as if something's wrong with that. You know, these people got this funny, they make me feel kind of awkward because blah, 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 and these kind of things. No, it's not that. It's when you come to them, if your business is not well commercialized, then they're not gonna say go back and fix that. They're gonna just look at me like, you know, we're not doing anything. Well, you didn't tell other people, all these other people that, well, maybe all these other people, their stuff the way it's supposed to be. Could be, maybe not. But as blacks, we just have to be excellent. We can't do anything other than excellence. And I'm going to have Brother Robinson speak to how his service has been impacted since he's been with 90 days using this service. Excuse me.
Since actually joining JD, actually, we have extremely made some milestones. Where school building in the area of 21215 zip code. And my vision and plan is to occupy that school. Instead of having a church, I will have a multi-purpose center. But like anything else, you need funding. You have bigger churches. A lot of these churches got CPAs. They got people who do that. And a lot of times we miss out on those opportunities. But as far as where I'm at, you know, the ministry itself, we definitely have grown, been in existence for well over 20 years, and now we're EMOGI, we're international. We're in Malaysia, Pakistan, Africa, and the Philippines. And I'm talking about being able to, just like talking to you, I'm actually talking to them in relationship. I can definitely see the ministry itself, like I said, in the next couple of months, being able to occupy that building and be able to, you know, see some things change in that community. But it's just like being with Pastor D and adopting a neighborhood, coming down here with JD, being able to work to get these people in that power. And I think that a lot of times we're not educated enough to occupy those funds, which are being presented every day. If you don't know, for every inmate that goes in prison, there's money that's given out of grant money for them. For every inmate, they give out money. Why can't we do something to prevent them and capitalize on those type of funds? Because they're giving it anyway. But a lot of times it goes back to the education piece. We got to be at the right place at the right time. And I'm really excited. Give me the right after was sleep. Had to work this morning and being tired, but I definitely said I was coming down to support Pastor D and actually JD to actually make the change. But I'm about really seeing change. I believe in two people. There's people that talk and there's people that make things happen. So you can say a lot. If you want to do it, and a lot of people say I want to come, if you want to see change, you got to just get out and make it happen. Because every day, things are happening every day, but it's up to us to make the difference. And you still need a Pharaoh. I think that the presentation that JD gave, let's give him a hand. A lot of information. What happens a lot of times, people get it. And I've had meetings over the course of this 90 days with a whole lot of different pastors and different people. And I can guarantee you this. Some of them say, hey, let me get back to you. And you have something knocking at your door. And to be honest with you, I didn't get it at first. But once I got it, I got it.
For the only one. So we're going to talk real quick about what the government considers barriers to entry. Just so you all know that some of what goes on has an explanation behind it. So barriers to entry is as follows.
A barrier to entry is any obstacle that restricts or impedes a company's efforts to enter an industry. Business owners, large and small, should know the barriers that await them when they enter a market. If they don't, they're likely to have a short and unsuccessful venture. Some barriers occur naturally, like a scarce supply of resources needed to make a company's products. Some are set deliberately, such as pricing strategies that limit the new company's potential for profits. A few of the more common barriers across multiple industries include economies of scale. Existing companies who've reached economies of scale, meaning unit cost per product has declined because of increased production efficiency, enjoy advantages over newcomers. Product differentiation. Introducing new products and convincing another brand's loyal customers to try an unknown company's products can be costly. Financial requirements. Finding the money to purchase new heavy equipment or build factories and plants is a significant barrier to entry for many ventures. There's also pollution on prices and other trade practices, government restrictions, technology considerations, and stiff competition. As an industry evolves, so too can its barriers to entry. These barriers serve to protect established companies within a particular industry, but they can also make a market less competitive, which may be good for the companies with an already established market presence, but not so good for consumers.
Okay, so barriers to entry is a lot of the reasons why companies in the Black community struggle. Prior to that quick insert there, by show of hands, who have heard the term barriers to entry? So barriers to entry is real, and if you don't know what that is, and you make a decision that locks you out of an economy because of those barriers to entry and not know, then you can say a lot of things that you think is wrong with how you operate, but it probably is going to end up being because of the barriers to entry, because of the information or lack thereof. You just didn't know the business model and you didn't know how to operate a brand as that. So this is the reason why we bring these 500 families with 500 entrepreneurs in there so that they can get that. We're going to come to a close on this. I'm going to talk about the Black Wall Street for a minute. If you look on the black there is companies, angel investors there that we communicate with in order for these 500 families through these non-adopted neighborhoods, in order for them to get and benefit the kind of money that we bring into these communities on a national level. On the right side, you see Black Wall Street. Everybody knows Black Wall Street. 60 years coming out of slavery, these black people out there in Tulsa were able to build their own jurisdiction. There was, didn't want to do that. I'm going to go to that article. Let me get back to. Okay, so there was 10,000 people, 10,000 blacks in Tulsa back in 1921. 60 years out of slavery. They had, trying to get my prompt to work for me. Okay, here we go. Better looking at this screen here. So 1921, Tulsa, they had 10,000 African Americans in there. These people had 2 newspapers, they had several churches, they had a library branch, and they had scores of black-owned businesses. 60 years out of slavery. Everybody knows the Black Wall Street. 10,000. Fast forward to the future, District Heights here. District Heights has what? 6,000. District Heights, Maryland, with a population under 6,000, 97% African American. Under the Community Reinvestment and Entitlements, access to investors, friendly partners, loans, and able to improve families, small businesses, investments, economic development, and whole support. Credit Foundation appealing to investments and representatives through cooperative affairs and developments. So if they did this in 1921, 60 years out of slavery, and they had 10,000, District Heights here in 2022 has 6,000. And to adopt this neighborhood using the technology, the education, using the economy for what it really offers to us as a people is something that we have already proven, and this will be our 9th adopted neighborhood, where we don't have to test pilot here. We just need to put the people in there. So why here in 2022, we can't do it in District Heights, and they did all of that in 1921, 60 years of slavery. We can do it. We just need to put the people in. We already have the instruments to move these 500 families, headed by entrepreneurs, straight into the money. The biggest thing with black people today, at least from my experience since 2022, is just to get people to overcome what has been done to us. Believe it or not, this whole 2020, this whole tobacco is all about keeping us confused, keeping us locked out, and keeping us from being able to think on our feet. Because when I say that they will give you food stamps, then they give you money, everybody I know I see with an orange card. And I'm just like, there's more orange cards than there are red cards. There's an issue with that. At least for me, there's an issue with it. But why not let them give you something? So food stamps is better than not having anything. But I also say too, what if they quit that? Because even when barriers to entry, it says some government restrictions, right, will leave you in a place where they'll stop all the social programs. I think some of us know that Social Security is going to come to an end. Food stamps is going to come to an end. Welfare is going to come to an end. They just setting us up so we have nothing because we've done nothing. At least that's what they think. And then all of a sudden, you're going to hear from the president's platform, all these social programs are going to come to an end because America is broke. Well, America can't be but so broke because the people who run it gets billions of dollars at the onset of Corona. So they just don't want us to do, and I caution you to take that and run with it, because if they stop all of this stuff, then what are our grandchildren going to do? We talked about the young people. These young people, if there was some young people in, there were, but you see they left out. And then, like this child here, when I was that age, my father took me to all of these kind of events here and left me in there to learn this, or at least get a quick start. So one child reminds me of when I was having to do this too. But most of these young people are not going to sit here and listen to this because they see it as a waste of their time. But come 30, 40 years, when they start getting in their 50s and 60s, and it's going to be way worse than 12.3% inflation, it's going to triple up that in another 30 years. What are they going to do? So as I always say it's the sandwich parents, meaning sandwich parents, you got children, and then you have your parents, and you're responsible for both of those people, your parents and your children, sandwich parents. I always say to the sandwich parents, we have to really get this done because this child right here is not going to be responsible for anything other than what we left them responsible to. And sometimes we leave them to poverty. Again, these percentage inflations has another side to it. If your business is able to keep up with inflation, it's not going to be you 200,000 behind inflation. It's going to be you 200,000 inside of that profit because you are keeping up with inflation. So it has a positive side. But if you don't have that, then you're going to be on the negative side, which is not going to be good. So in the Black America marketplace, 50,000 retail consumerism education. 50,000 retail consumerism education campaign in District Heights. How does that work? If you take 500 companies and you put a campaign between those 500 companies and they come in contact, what we call touch 100 persons, that's 50,000. And with that 50,000 from those 500 companies is looking for business because every time you look around here and you see a service provider come up, you probably don't see a lot of black companies. You're going to see other people, other companies, and they may have a black worker, but it's not black owned and operated. So in this process here, this campaign, you bring 50,000 consumers into this one portal and you educate them on like we being educated. And they'll say to the first thing, I didn't know that. But my issue with black-owned companies, and they'll make all of this stuff up that may be true about black-owned companies, but we want to fix that. We don't want black-owned companies to have critics that happen to be blacks. We don't want that. We can't afford to have it. We need to fix it. And here we will fix it. But we just need to get the first 500 in and then move them into a place where we can put the 50,000 in and then work up from there. Because I can tell you, for my other 9 adopted neighborhoods or my other 8, the mayors of these cities love adopted neighborhoods because then they have a systematic process that carries over $50 million easily a year in their jurisdiction. They do not discriminate when you bring that kind of money to them. And that's what's being offered here in District Heights. And with that, that closes this orientation. I want to thank you all for joining. Did you? Yes. Do you want the mic? I'll bring it to you.
Oh, y'all can't hear me?
Can you hear me now? Aha. Yeah, actually, I've been talking to, I do a lot of campaigning with people that are running like sheriff. Well, I call him a sheriff because we don't have a black sheriff. Okay, I hope ain't nobody saying we don't talk about this. Lynn Nail, who's going to be, she'll be the first female black sheriff in actually PG County. And I think it's a good thing. Women, we can do it, okay? We got our brothers behind us, we can do it, okay? But I've talked to her, she wants to come in and hear about, what you all are doing. I'm still trying to get more understanding of it. It seems like something really good. And I'm in for the win. I mean, whatever I have to do, I'm actually a partner with the state's attorney, Aisha Brayboy. I'm a partner with the Witness Protection Program for the district attorney. So I want these people to see what they can do to actually help us do this, adopt the Capitol Heights. I think it's something awesome to do. I don't live in the district, I live in, I live in Upper Marlboro. Back in the days, I called it, excuse me, y'all, Catching Niggas County, because if you come out here in the little two dirt roads wrong, they gonna get you, okay? But that's what I used to call it. But, you know, I think it's something really good. I want to continue to learn more, you know, continue to talk to other people, you know. I don't think it has to necessarily be people in district heights, is that correct? Yeah, bring them in so that we can do what we need to do for our communities and stuff. So any way I can help, I'm willing to walk the walk, talk the talk, put your mouth out there and show some action and stuff. But I've already talked to Lynn Mayo. She's going to be coming to listen to it. She'll get it, they goes like short notice. And then get some other people like Sean Wilson, the mayor out of Fairmont Heights. I mean, these people want to hear it, okay? So if I can get a little more understanding, which I'm studying now because I'm all over everywhere. God did tell me to sit down, but I can't. I would like to just, you know, be able to talk to people and bring in people, you know, to hear the presentation, because I think it's something really good, okay? It's really good, okay? All right, God bless you all. It's hot, but it feels good to hit the sun.
Thank you very much, thank you very much. This is being recorded, right? So this is a recording that can go back out into the universe in a way that it speaks for us one time. You know this gift that keeps giving? A gift that keeps giving is information that's going to make people come to a decision. And then that decision, in my opinion, is always based on information, especially when it's information that's distributed by those very persons who have a common interest, like the young lady just said. She said, I want to learn more, and I'm in. She's saying this without being here the whole time. Sometimes you just got to know that, see, the whole thing in the community, we don't see the real challenges in our communities if we're not active. But if you get active, then you will start seeing those real challenges. So it's all about getting the people who may not see it, but are impacted and affected by things that's not going on. And they just like, you know, it's just not going on. Where you have to do something, you have to move. So it is recorded, and we can have another meeting with those leaders. But we're going to try to put this together in a way that we can also put it in the hands of everyone here and get started. Speaking of the adopted neighborhoods, this is an adopted neighbor application here. So we got started by simply saying, if we were talking about adopted neighborhood, and there was 500 investors in this room, and the mayor was speaking, then the mayor will probably say, I like this group because I have 500 investors in this room through this adopted neighborhood. So you may not consider yourself an investor, but if you get commercialized with us, then you become a part of an investment portfolio, which speaks loud and clear when you're talking about investments in communities. So the mayor says, I really like to talk to this organization, this group. I would love to speak to all 500 of them. So just imagine if you were the mayor or the council member, and you were talking to 500 investors, and then get that feel. And then think about if you were the mayor and you was talking to 500 residents who wasn't paying their taxes, was not asking you for anything about, but give me, which community is that mayor going to want to embrace? Anybody? Yeah. That mayor's going to want to embrace the group of 500 investors, talk about putting money in their community. So because blacks have been discriminated against, again, discrimination, very broad use of words, but because we think we've been discriminated against, it's amazing how that changes when the dynamic of your approach changes. So when they see you as 500 coming in and put money in their community, we started off this by talking about the 12 jobs through Bowie State University. This is not a talk, this is a real development. And this is the life of Dr. Neighborhood, so we don't have to test it. It's already there. The mayor would say to us, with 500 entrepreneurs, so what are you all suggesting? Why? Because you're adding value to the district that you are adopting. Versus 500 people who says, well, you all not doing anything for us. We need jobs, we need all these kind of things. They will say, I got enough to deal with at my office, but I'll get back to you. They quick to say that. I got enough going on, so bear with me, I'll get back to you. And then the league feel like I can't help these people. Unfortunately, you do pay your tax dollars, but I don't have to tell you all know how that works. We want to change that. So in this application right here, if you look at this Adopt a Neighborhood application, there's the sponsorship, which is the person who's going to adopt it. There's their information, which is passed to B in this particular one. So she not only through her church is a community partner in this investment where these 12 jobs are going to be out of here through, in this church right here, through the contract she has with my agency, but she also sponsored her own community here. So this is her information. It goes on down. There it is. So we talk about District 8, District 7, Maryland. We talk about the councilman or the commissioner. We talk about the mayor, Cynthia Melba. We talk about their address, and she signs off. Pass the B there. And then she puts her information in here. So these 500 families who go in this application, like Pastor D here, are automatically put into this investment portfolio and vehicle. They are put into a $1 million pilot program so that their business can do contracts for us and take on our grants for us. And they are also represented at the mayor's office through this particular instrument as 500 in a cohesion effort to bring economic development to District Heights, where the mayor's going to say, job well done, thank you all for picking our community, and let's do some business, versus I'm going to get back to you. Why do they say that? They say I'm going to get back to you because you don't have enough of offer that's going to take, you're not going to be given precedence over some other entities. We talk about gentrification all the time. We say all of these people who don't look like us coming here and they give them everything. Well, they giving them everything because they coming with everything. So we need to come with everything too, and they will. They'll work with us. This is my ninth. This is my ninth Adopt a Neighborhood here. So I know they don't discriminate against us, but they can't afford to take care of. I'm black, so trust me, I'm an advocate. But they can't afford to take care of the poor when they're too busy starting wars, like Tupac would say, right? They're not going to do that. That's not their interest. But if you come with something that they can identify with and it's going to make money in their district, then they're going to allow you to get some of that money. And they will. The money train doesn't stop because you're black. It just kind of sort of puts a challenge before you because of your presentation and the way you do business. So this is why this Adopt a Neighborhood is so valuable. So this is the application. If some of you all in here happen to be nonprofits, then this is the application for nonprofits. And with these nonprofits, we take these nonprofits and we do proposals for them. We talked about early on with CFC, BBB, and all these kind of things. We do the same thing. We take the nonprofits to sign up in this program, and we go and find the dollar that just related to their work, and then we do the proposals, take on the finances, and we submit it and secure the grants for them. They don't have to do the work. We're going to do it for them, and they come into the system through this application. And this is for those entrepreneurs too. We don't need anybody to come in here but to provide the service. If you are a construction company, provide your construction company services. We're going to just get you the contract. You're a nonprofit, we're going to get you the grant. Provide the services. We just want money to come back into the black community, starting here in District Heights. Now I'm done with the presentation. Thank you all very much. Yes. I'm sorry. Forgive me. Come on, Pastor B.
I think some of them want to know what are the benefits, what do they have to do to sign up? I think that's one of the questions that's floating around.
Okay, so, and I do apologize. Iwana had to catch me. I've been presenting for a minute, but I don't know how I slipped and almost forgot. So I apologize to everyone, but let's talk about that. So here, on this sponsorship is 129 to become a part of the CRA profile here in District Heights. So it's 129, and once you complete this, you become a part of that. You go into the mayor's office through this application, and we represent you through their budget. So what are the benefits? In this application, you all see where it says sponsor confirmation. So sponsor confirmation meaning simply that you decided to adopt the District Heights here. And this is what is being offered to you on the onset. This is just the entry, at the very entry. We didn't get into the grants and the contracts issuance. We didn't get into representing your company through commercialization. We didn't get into creating these grant recipient letters of interest. None of that is in here, but all of that follows this. So under A, column A, sponsor confirmation, I would like to apply for the Adopted Neighborhood Investment Partnership acceptance. Whereas an enrolled sponsor in the selected categories, this is what's being, under A, what's being offered. 129, you go into this application with the council. Entrepreneurs interagency agreement, we talked about this particular church be given an interagency agreement with 12 positions we went over earlier on. And these 12 people through Bowie State University and or persons who may need the job will work from this church, whether it's online or in the church itself, but they have their job with this church. This church, through my corporation, those are 2 companies. These 500 companies that come through here puts more than 2 companies meaning interagency agreement. All of these companies are tied to one contract. And this is where the $100 million valuation comes in play. We just get into the economic piece. But number C, family individual comprehensive financial reinvestment building sponsorship. Again, we use our money in our financial statements to take that entrepreneur who may not have a good history, and we represent them using our finances and our investments. Going to D, prioritize banking investments, great life insurance. Now, with that one right there, insurance, if you all don't know, insurance will make you super wealthy. So we as blacks don't get into the insurance business because we think it costs too much. But through our contract, we take some of the service fee and put that into an insurance policy for your business so that your business can build wealth through insurance, because insurance is more wealthier than the banking institution, and the banking institution depends on the insurance industry for its survival. And we also depend on the insurance industry for our survival. A lot of us don't participate in that, but here under these adopted neighborhoods, we put that insurance on these companies so that if something happened to that company and it goes under, that their children and grandchildren do not have to suffer because there's no money left. They're not going to go out of business in this profile, or something happened to somebody in this profile without there being some money left for their loved ones. We don't want to leave them hanging like that. So number E, community budgets and reserves. So community budgets and reserves is what the government does. So give you an example of how that works. District Heights has, let's just say they have 6,000 people in this particular District Heights. So in this particular District Heights of 6,000 people, they generate, let's just say about $2 million, $3 million every 3 months. And in that budget, that quarterly budget at $3 million, residents in here are supposed to be able to participate in that money because they pay their taxes. But because a lot of, in these smaller communities, a lot of people don't know how that works. We go into that mayor's office through this application, we'll find people, and they see that in column B, column E. They see that, and they say, oh, so they're coming out our budget. Well, we are coming out of your budget because we pay our taxes. And they don't mind you coming after their budget. But we're not going to come and take their budget and leave them with nothing. We're going to also add to the economy. And they understand that through positive proposal also. So this is again, when you're talking to a mayor as an investment portfolio, they see that you bringing money to their district versus coming saying, give me, which they try to accuse us of. And so that's why when they see us coming, they say, you know, nothing's going on. You got to wait till election time. You don't have to wait till election time. And I think that Pastor D, did I highlight the community legacy partnership? So these people right there are giving away millions of dollars right in this district. And I talk to so many business owners and they don't even know. I said it's on the website. We didn't know that. I said, you're doing all these town meetings. Nobody told us. I said, I'm an outsider. And I know it, so why don't you guys know it? Nobody told us. But right now, they're giving out millions of dollars for these businesses in this district, and nobody knows. So when you talk about bringing 500 families in here, you want to talk about putting them in a place where they don't get overlooked or missed. Yes. No. We do business. Not any type of business. We have a designated 70 categories that we are trying to create 500 jobs for the young people so they can come in here and paint this, as an example, they can come in here and paint this building. They can fix the relic, they can learn a skill because you know they took the skills out of the schools 20 or 30 years ago. So we really hammering down on those vocations. But we deal in all types of business, like ministry here. Ministry, we're putting 12 jobs in here. We're giving them a contract so that we can do it here and we can go after that money. Yeah, you see? So any kind of business, no one business, all black business, we want to make sure that if they're not at $1 million, they come in here. If they are at $1 million, we won't help them because we want to make room for those who are struggling. Mm-hmm.
The businesses that are not already at the
Correct. Yes. Pastor, do you were going to say this?
No, I was going to say that the one thing, let them know that you and I have already spoken to the parents.
Oh yeah. Oh, we don't play around. This is not even the only thing that's gonna make us miss out what we came to do here is if we don't meet the 500. And it's a shame that if we don't meet the 500, how that opportunity just passed by them. This is what we don't want to happen. But again, the reason for this presentation is to give you all some information. So I always go back to the quickest way to consider this. 3.12% inflation will put you $200,000 behind the 8 ball in the days haven't even went by. They got this stuff so calculated and so detailed and tested that they can make you, again, we broke down the wages, $28,000 a month at $15 an hour, $14.50. So if you want to make $28,000 and then at the end of the forensics, all they say is at the end of the year, you only walked away with $2,800, there's a problem with that. But because we have a job and because we able to buy gas and feed ourselves, we got a job, we rolling. No. For instance, all this says at the end of the year, when all the things are tallied up, you made $2,800 for that year. And you probably made that $2,800 enough to go to the movies. So what are they saying? Well, I don't subscribe to us being slaves, but somebody lied. Yes. We are active now. If we can get 50 people right now to jump on board, we're going to change the dynamics because, again, these people almost 40 acres in a mule. And I'm just saying that because I don't like the idea. I'm a black man, and they enslaved my people, and they still paying fuddy-duddy, but so be it. Who's going to take that 500 people inside that application and say, go away? They can't. They can go away. And they won't go away. They'll be like, this group right here, because we bring in money, they can come through. Everybody else, we don't have time for the rest of these people. But we want to be heard because the structure said, this is not a new test palette. This is my ninth adopted neighborhood. You do not. You can be from anywhere in the country. All you have to do is I want to adopt that neighborhood. And even even if you're in California and you adopt a neighborhood, we're gonna take care of your business. Because we're gonna get credit because your business adopted this neighborhood. Remember, most of these people who come in here through the gentrification profile, they never step foot in these communities. They be over in Europe and they just taking all the money and making all the money, but they never even came in America, a lot of these people. So this is how this is done.
I spoke to a lot of pastors, I told them to go online and get them involved. But my question here was for Queen Jennifer. She does some different things with the homeless families and domestic violence in Washington DC. That's why I got her here, to make sure we bring her on, because she's gonna work a lot of things in that home. And I could say proudly that God is good to me. Some of what she's doing is throughout the 60 years from now. So therefore, there's hope. So the ones that she worked with, if we can go in and rethink their minds with the knowledge that you have, we can save some of our folks. And that way we can get back in these homes and rebuild these homes. So that's why I asked her about it. She goes into the woods.
Okay, so this particular orientation today, because it's recorded and it's put back into circulation for that reason. Again, sometimes people sit back. So I'm going to be honest with you all. I talk to business owners all the time, and I say, I always ask black businesses to do one thing. I always say, go to this website, pyrobuoy2.com. Just go there and listen to the 1 hour orientation. And then they never do. It's Pyro, P-A-R-U, Bowie, B-O-W-I-E, and then the number 2 is 2 eyes for 2.com. Capital, two capital eyes, yes.
Here's the good thing about this guy. We can come up with that problem because each one of us, if we've got somebody that believes in our vision, that we can reach out to, and we can make this thing happen. They say that blacks can't get along. Right. I would say I've dealt with many birds and you really can't. But there's some eagles who will understand this vision, they catch on to it, and we can make this happen. Because we already been put on our minds, know we're better than this, we're greater than this. And that's what I love about the organization that we're in, what we call each other kings and queens, we put that back into our minds to let us understand that we're not down, we're not counted out. There's still some of us bringing another. Be for real, y'all. I don't care if we don't care. Because our Congress called me outspoken. We're the most intelligent people on this earth. But if we would just come together and realize we would do well if we work together instead of trying to cut each other out.
And that second domain, I concur with that. And so I go back as far as these civil rights people and these Black Panthers and these Muslims and all that. And the thing that I can most appreciate for all these organizations, they always talk to our people in the way that our people understood. But again, I move forward to the 2020. Since 2020, our people have been put in a place that we're not thinking right anymore. And because that's the case, it's evident to me. When 2020 happened, again, I'm on my 9th adopted neighborhood, so I had people calling me in 2020 when this whole coronavirus started, calling me saying, Mr. Hawkins, can you please pay my rent? And I was having to tell them to my heartache that I'm not a social service, and if we can't get through the government, we don't have any food. I mean, just all these kind of things, and I'm just like to myself, no, I'm a private entity. I can't help, I'm sorry. But since then, I kind of find out that when I talk to a lot of people, they like just to myself, I get back to you, and they don't move. And I'm saying when you don't move after this presentation, we talk about 3.12% inflation. Numbers don't seem that great, if you will. But if you look at the devastations, it puts you from 1980, if you had 100,000, to 336,000 now, which is triple net. In the deficit if you didn't have 100,000. So we talk about young people who have no skills, who's smoking. This whole idea about marijuana and urine, not to get a job. What about their brains? Because when you start smoking, your brains kind of sort of get, yeah, this too. So if you put that to it, and you also think about no opportunities, then you walk around and you say to some of the young people, so what's on your mind? And they say, nothing much. And you say, talk to me a little better than that. Well, they may say, well, I'm going to be the next Jay-Z. They may go there, or they may say, I'm going to be the next Michael Jordan. But that's not always the best way. We got to put something in them where they have more inspirations and they have more ideas in terms of what they can do based on being like this child here, like I was when I was that child's age. Just based on being in this organization through this adopted neighborhood. Because one thing I'm saying, we will not be denied. When you put 500 people in that application and it goes inside that council in that mayor's office, they say these people are not playing with me. And they're not going to play with you. It's just when you come along and you don't have a system to back you up, you have no money, then they override everything you say to the point that you said nothing, even though you were saying it in plain English, and that's not fair. So these adopted neighborhoods is to put them in a place where to say that we're going to do it with you or without you. The difference between the contract with the church here and those 12 professional sites, jobs there, and actually doing it, the difference is if they don't hear us, then when we do say, well, Mayor, you did nothing. We came with something. We came with more than the best and the best. And you've done nothing. So we're going to pull you to the red carpet, right? And we're going to expose what you're not doing. And then you're going to have to be forced to tell us why you're not doing it. They don't want that because they'll slide that under the rug if it's just you, me, or somebody else. But when we come in a group, economic group like this, they're not going to play with us. So we want to see district height, and we do because the contract is already established. If you all want to be a part of this, then we talked about the challenges, we talked about the opportunities, we talked about the application, we talked about the change, and we mainly talked about the young people. Young people, what do? We leave them to die broke? Because right now, if they don't have $100,000, and this is in 1980, then they probably will die broke, and they'll die broken-hearted. And it's nothing worse than seeing a parent who can't help a child because of the decisions parents make. And it's not always their fault. Sometimes we're born into poverty. We just need to figure out how to get out of it. And this is the opportunity to learn, improve, and to be supported. So I say out the window, where blacks can't work together, blacks can't do anything but work together since 2020. Any final? Break the curse. Yes. Well, let's break the change. Let's separate the yoke, and let's tell the Europeans that we are something to be reckoned with. Not when y'all say so, but when we say so. Because again, one thing I do know after 35 years of being in business, they don't go away from money. They don't see color. They see money. If you bring it, they want to work. They're going to work. So break the yoke, break the change. And it's all in our area. We right here. We don't have to go anywhere. It's right here. This is where it takes place. Pastor B, if it's okay, I'll take any more questions, but I'll let you. I have a question? Yeah.
I'm excited because I'm very interested in Alita. I'm very interested in what I heard. I work in the community too. I'm a pastor and apostle. Work with women. So I'm really excited to hear about this. I'm excited.
Well, thank you very much for joining us, and thank you for being interested. This is good.
The gentleman Clarence, we have a organization, so we come in here, it brings some folks and we talk to them as well. So don't have to be here, if you need this location, you need to stop and
Well, is that the one that was here? The one that was participating? Okay. So we're gonna want to keep everything here. We want, because we have to keep the money coming out of here and coming in here. So this is it. That's not the website, but that's the orientation, but it's PARU Bowie, like Bowie, Maryland, Bowie, and the 2 I's capital for 2. So Paru Bowie, at the end. Vic Urban, VicUrban.com. Arbor, IP, and that's Urban, URBAN.com. Arbor, IP, URBAN.com. So ParuBowie2.com is the orientation. And then Vic Urban is the actual website. So you're welcome. Any final questions? How many pastors do we have in here? Are you a pastor here at this church? Yes.
No.
Okay. Okay. Did you enjoy the orientation?
I did. I actually had Councilmember Victor from Capitol Heights.
Okay.
Who I've been partnering with for at least 10 years now, doing things. And he said, yeah, he's definitely interested in how we can get in, get participating, get the money into the people, get the money out into the community.
Yes, indeed. Okay, good deal. Glad to have you. I think that should take care of us, Pastor D. I will say that any pastor who wants to close out with the mic and the prayer.
Well, I just want to say something. I'm not a pastor yet.
Okay.
I'm starting ministry that will be launching very soon. I haven't been installed, so I can't necessarily say that I am a pastor. But I can say this. I was basically having this conversation last night about the youth and trying to get them involved in the community, trying to get them involved in seeing things from a different perspective. Because they see things totally different than the way we see things. They don't see, and you talked about it earlier, you said when they become 30 or 40 years old, then they'll see what we're talking about now. Because the only thing that they have on their mind is, like you said, being a rapper, being an athlete, getting high, chasing women, all the things that young people do, some do other things. But I think what you're doing is awesome. I think what you're doing is amazing, and you're a good part of it.
Thank you very much. Thanks for coming and welcome aboard. Okay, any pastor that wants to close out with a prayer, because I'm not a pastor and my prayers probably wouldn't speak it right, but I do pray. I'm a walking praying board, but a pastor do better than I would. So any prayer? Huh?
God bless you. Father God, in the mighty name of Jesus, we just want to thank you. Father, we worship you and we praise you. Father, we thank you for this meeting. Without you, we can do nothing. Father, we ask you to open up the doors that need to be opened, and shut the doors that need to be shut. Father, I ask you to bless everybody under the sound of my voice right now. We thank you so much for what you're going to do in this community. Father, the word say when the heavens suffered, the thou took it by force. So God, we thank you for this season. We are positioning ourselves to take it by force. Bless everybody as they go their separate way. I ask you to be with them in the mighty name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen.